Hey Aaron, it's really good to see you again.
Same, Kathy. Good to see you.
I have some questions for you. So let's start with this one. So what are the risks of allowing the seller to stay in the house after the home already closes?
Well, Kathy, I'm happy you asked that question. I think that is dependent on if you're in Cook County or the other counties in the state of Illinois. But for simplicity's sake, we'll just say anywhere in the state of Illinois. If you have a post-possession agreement after closing, and you have a skilled real estate attorney and they've written an agreement that says it's a license and not a lease, you'd have a strong argument for not having to go through a forcible entry and detainer proceeding. However, a judge may not see that as the case. Forcible entry and detainer proceeding is what we refer to as an eviction. So if the seller doesn't leave the home, you may probably have to go through an eviction proceeding. The agreement will have a lot of details on what happens if the seller doesn't leave. You can reach out to me if you have more questions. I'd be happy to discuss that with you. Any client can reach out to me and we'll go over that. But to sum up this, if the person doesn't leave, probably you're going to have to go through an eviction proceeding. So there is that risk.
Well, and that gets costly.
It does. And I guess I would say as of last weekend, I was a licensed attorney in Illinois for 8 years. I'm now licensed in Wisconsin. I have yet to see anybody have to go through an eviction proceeding. I have had it where sellers have stayed a few extra days. A lot of the times that's been agreed to. There's been a few times where it hasn't, but it usually always works out, and nobody, or at least none of my clients, have ever had to go to court and go through an eviction proceeding.
Well, that's good news at least. Yeah.
Yes.
So what about a tenant? What if a tenant is there and you're moving in and this is going to be your primary residence and you're getting ready to close and the tenant doesn't move out? Is it the same? It sounds like it might be more complicated.
I think that's going to be a lot more complicated and it's going to be a lot more of a mess. So the tenant would not have a relationship with the new owner, and then the new owner is going to probably have to be working with the seller, and it's just going to be a lot more of a longer time going through courts, a lot more legal problems, a lot more expense. It would be best only for the tenant to stay if the new owner is going to be assuming the landlord relationship. If not, it'd be best for the seller to make sure the tenant is out, especially if it's in Cook County, especially if it's in Chicago, especially if it's in Evanston. Those are the places you do not want to be a buyer and have the tenant remaining in possession afterwards. If that's the only way you can buy the home, then I guess that's something you have to deal with. And you want to have a skilled real estate attorney make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
Yeah, I would agree because I've seen some things in the news recently where, it's 3 months later and they're still trying to get them out. Um,
That's about right.
yeah, it seems like when I think about it, I'm like, okay, we would do a final walkthrough, and if the tenant was still there, we might not close. All right. So,
Yeah, I
yeah,
would probably say get a larger escrow if the tenant's still and it wasn't agreed to, or push off closing unless you're willing to take that risk.
yeah, that's a huge risk. So.